So that can be a concern. Like when you're looking at the broader market and stuff that's more liquid, if you see price going up and the volume is going down, there's concern in that trend pattern. There can be, right?
I'm concerned already in it for sure.
I'm applying a little bit of stock knowledge, market knowledge to this, if you will. And that's not what you want to see, right? You want to see the price going up, but there's a lot of activity supporting that price.
Do you want to play our game? Let's play the game.
We can play the game. We can play your game.
Lightning. Yeah, this is
it the game or your game?
Your game. If it's the game, you've already lost.
My game is who can think of a local business faster. Sounds like the lamest game now that I say it live, knowing that somebody's going to hear it. Sounds like a lame game. First home builder you think of? Go.
Corey Anderson, Elko Construction.
Ooh, wow. See, I figure Branden. See, this is going to make the game not fun because I think Brandon's going to win every single time. Dentist.
Well, because most of the
Kevin Nyson.
Shiz.
Yeah, so most of the industries are in BNI. I'm not in BNI. I'm gonna sit over here at Cash Valley Bank.
Nice. I caught him sleeping.
But who's the banker?
Car dealership.
Josh Williams.
You just got
Red Rock Auto Fashion.
Auto Fashion?
No, I said Josh Williams first. Red Rock
That's
Auto.
a good one.
Red Rock. You're not even taking your strategy. Jeff told me a strategy that he was going to use, and he hadn't even started. Red Rock anything.
Red Rock Dental.
Plumber.
Chandler Tebbs, Red Rock Plumbing.
Walker. Walker Plumbing. See? You don't even got one.
You stole my strategy. You didn't mean to.
Because it actually probably works. Mm-hmm. It probably works. Or Dixie. You just put Dixie in front of it. Roofing.
Red Rock Roofing. Stout Roofing.
I don't even think there's a Red Rock Roofing. Stout?
Yeah,
but I wouldn't even think that Dixie Roofing. I would pick Dixie Roofing.
Stewart Awnings.
Do they do roofing? I think they just do awnings. I don't know if they do roofing.
Okay, so there's a partner of mine, and I want to get his auto detailing business because he just broke out on his own. He's doing his own thing. New Life Auto Detailing, St. George. Look him up, 515-556-6041. Shout out to Rin, good friend of mine.
Does he do boats?
New Life Auto Detailing. I think he would do a boat.
Ceramic coatings? Does he do ceramic coatings?
I think if you go to his Facebook page,
Jeff, if you look at his website,
check that out.
It's auto detailing. I think he's mainly like cars. I think he wants to do and focus on cars specifically. Cool. But I bet you if you said, "Hey, could you get into the boating market?" He'd probably be like, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Sweet.
So he's just getting the business going and working on his own.
You know who would destroy that game? McRae.
He would destroy which game? Because I think
we were just playing.
We'll bring McRae on for lightning round.
Lightning round.
McRae.
Yeah. If anyone in St. George can beat McRae,
we'd have to do a buzzer. We'd have to do a buzzer.
Yeah,
because Family Feud style.
Family Feud.
Let's do it for like a $1,000 gift card.
We do Family Feud for businesses in St. George. That's good for one episode. Nobody else would ever watch ever again. So anyway, we wanted to say thank you to a lot of the partners that we have. If you're watching the show, this isn't necessarily a podcast to sell anything. We want to give as much value as we can, but because we're in real estate, we have a lot of partnerships with people that are really good at what they do, that are local businesses, which is, I think, what we want to shop for as often as we can, if we can help it. So local businesses, they make the city go round, as they say. Mm-hmm. So big shout out to that. Let's talk about real estate. What's this 2023 mid-year letter, the long game? Should we talk real estate first, or you want to talk this first?
Talk real estate first. And
okay, Mallory.
Said one table on that webpage I was going to talk about.
Do you want to pull up ours? Or Blake?
Yeah, pull up what exactly?
The 435, wealth435.com, and then the housing market. That right there.
Yeah.
Just as long as we can put it up, and then
this might be a good
they can watch it.
Transition into some, maybe some of the
pages are backwards. So start with the last one first. That was archives, and then you can go backwards. So this is the graphic you'll find on our website. We also put it on social media. We put it in our newsletter. I feel like I have to put everything everywhere a bazillion times, and it's very stressful. However, this is what we run every single month. So we're halfway through the year, and this is with 6 months of data in the books. We haven't been following along now. If you haven't been following along now, now's a good time to look at the details. 3 most important things. We have supply has gone down, demand has gone down, and the absorption rate is still on a flaming 185% year to date change. So we've almost doubled how quickly homes are absorbing into the market.
Can you talk about what that means for like 30 seconds?
Yeah.
What is absorption rate?
So absorption rate is if everybody stopped putting their house on the market, how long would demand take to buy every single one of them at the current rate? Okay.
So in June
so
of
we have
22, it would have taken.
So there's hold on, let me double check. Absorption rate and then housing by months. So there's the inventory by month number, but then there's also how many the actual number. There's an actual rate applied to that because it's a rolling time frame of absorption, and then it's a snapshot at any given time. So you're always
3.68 in June. That's months.
So that's months of inventory.
Not homes, obviously.
Not homes, right? So some homes are moving at 28 homes a month, right? Some price points. So then if you scroll down one page, just go to the next page. This first graph is showing you what absorption rate is. So absorption rate months chart shows how long the current inventory of properties would last at the current rate of sales. So you can see it by price category. So every home has its own market. So a 2-story house and another 2-story house, that's a whole market. So all the 2-story homes in St. George are a market, right? Most people start with price. And because that graphic quality is horrible, it doesn't look great right there. However, if you look at the chart, it's broken into $100,000 price breaks up to $1 million. And then we go to 250,000 at a time, just because I was trying to keep over 100 homes of data in each one or more. So 100 homes or more of data over the last 6 months. Okay. So these are the last rolling 3-month calculations. So this really is like the most leading indicator of how well we're doing and where we're going, right? So if I'm looking at this and it's a 3-month calculation, I can kind of apply this to the next 3 months, right? It's like roughly this is what's going to happen. And if you look and follow us along every single month, you'll see that some months we're in a seller's market at higher price points, but for the most part, for the last 6 months of the year, we've been in a buyer's market above 700,000. Okay. So I think this is a great indicator on how to start and understand. So if you're a buyer, what am I looking at? You're like, okay, if I'm a buyer and I'm thinking about buying a house in this range, doesn't matter what the house is, in this range in Washington County, I can expect a buyer's market. Maybe I'm in a better negotiating position than I would be otherwise in these other price breaks. So you can see that it's interesting, 300 to 400,000, right? You're not in as hot of a market as 400 to 500,000, which is funny to me, but do you guys know why it's like that? What do you think?
Here's my guess based on previous experience, very recent experience. HOAs. Every home under 400,000 has an HOA.
Yep.
And then once you go over 400,000, you start getting homes that you start mixing in homes that don't have HOAs.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
So it's a function of demand, right? So supply and
demand. Can I
demand.
give a real world example on that?
Yeah, perfect.
So home listed 2 days ago in the afternoon. Saw it pop up. Got some first time home buyers. We went and looked at it immediately. Put an offer in. They already had 3 offers on the first day. It hadn't even hit the hot sheet yet. So we make a good offer over asking price. Give them a short response deadline. Home ends up with 7 different offers. 25,000. Well, 20,000 over asking, with the best offer had 50% down.
Wow.
Crazy. I mean, I literally felt like I was a buyer's agent in the middle of COVID.
Right. And that's kind of what it shows. I mean, if you look at, so what was that price point again?
It was listed at 360, right in the middle.
360. So right on the cusp, of that, right? And it's probably, that's for sure it, right? But 350 to 400, and then under 350, it goes to, there's basically no inventory at all, and so there's not really any demand either. Nobody can afford it, right?
So if you do a search on the MLS for active properties under 400,000 that do not have an HOA, there were 4. 2 days ago there were 4. One of them was a home listed at $400,000, right in the middle of kind of an RV trailer park area. 2 of them were manufactured homes, and the other one was the one that we put an offer on.
Yeah. Well, and this, I will say this, even though there's only 4, the reason is because we just don't, the type of home that is doesn't exist in St. George. It just doesn't. The vast majority of homes hitting, just active supply hitting the market is over 500,000. That's just the vast majority of them. It goes 5 to 700,000 is the biggest block. And every new build is coming out of the ground for the vast majority of the new builds. They're $750,000 or more, right? There are some multifamily, there's some townhomes. DR Horton's doing a lot there, so there is inventory coming.
Got some
Carefree's got some
$500,000-$600,000.
But you know, the short-term rental market has dried up, in my opinion. Some of it's moving, some of it's not, but that's a function of investors kind of on hold on the real estate side, or at least in St. George. Is that your perspective?
For short-term rentals?
For short-term rentals.
The price just
I
doesn't make sense.
don't know that we have enough time on this podcast to talk about my opinion on short-term rentals in St. George.
Well, there you have it, folks.
What's your 30-second overview?
If you're going to own it because you want to use it and enjoy it, and the cash flow doesn't matter,
Supplement some income, maybe?
You know what? That's like an interesting way to have a second home, a vacation property or something.
Yeah.
As a pure investment, I think there's a lot better opportunities out there.
So do you think people are still buying here though? I haven't even looked at the specific short-term rental buy sell. We'll have to look that up and maybe we'll do a follow-up.
I mean, I got a client with one that he's been trying to sell for 5 months.
Yeah.
And hasn't sold it. And
that's good transition.
To get it moved, he would have to do a price reduction that like all of a sudden your asset's not worth anywhere near what you think it is.
So Blake, zoom back out. And we definitely have a better version of this on the website.
PNG version.
PNG higher quality, because I emailed it to him and then I didn't do the nicest quality, of course.
This is the dial up.
So what history shows, so table 2, if you go on there, it's actually 2017 through 2019. So I wanted to take a 3-year look at what history shows us. With supply and demand. This is new listings and sold listings over that time frame. And you can see the peaks and valleys. What month do you think the bottom green dots are?
Gosh, probably the middle of winter.
December, both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? So, and this is the history of 90% of markets in a balanced market is doing this, right? People want to list and sell their home in the spring. And they want to be where they're at by Christmas, and nobody wants to sell. People want to buy during Christmas, so motivated buyers are definitely in the market.
Yeah, if you want to buy and you've got a little bit of wiggle room, buying in the middle of winter is probably the best time to buy.
It's a good time to buy, but if you're a seller too, you actually can compete because you have a couple of options of serious people. So there's definitely something to be said for that. However, looking at this chart, this is what I think we're going to look at for the remaining of the year. So if you scroll one more page now, Blake, homes sold by financing type, cash is king. I think you said that last month. 35% of our inventory is sold cash. Okay. Year to date, 51% on a conventional loan, FHA 8%, VA 2.3%. That's, typical, I think, across the board, except for the fact that cash is shrinking. I think we've been historically about 40 to 50, truthfully, cash in Washington County. So that's an interesting stat there. And then the last one, unit sales by time on the market. Going back to what you said, he's been on the market for 5 months. So if you look at this is when homes sell typically based on their time frame on current data. So 44% of the homes are going to sell in the first 30 days. You're going to get the most money in the first 30 days, in my opinion. And you have to be able to adjust somewhere in that, but hopefully day 21 is when you're making the adjustment, and then you go under contract right within that next week. That's when you're going to get the most money. Then it drops 19% of the time in that second month. This is where I think investment properties and where you need to tell a good story comes into play, is that you have to be willing to get that extra investment money, or maybe the price that's calculated based off rents and somebody that might want as a second home, right? Just takes a little longer for somebody from out of the area to want to buy something. So 60 days, for some of those properties, I think makes sense. And then it drops off pretty steeply. People get buyer fatigue, sets in. People have seen the house. They see that it's been on the market for a while, and you get lost into the abyss. Nobody sees it. And then all of a sudden, the market catches up. So 120 days plus is 15% of the market. And I think that's because the market time has changed enough. And, time is raising all boats if you look at the macro. And so I think homes, eventually the price catches up to the market, and then they end up selling. Month 6 is typically what happens.
Yeah. I think you said before that, markets roll in 6-month increments anyway.
Yeah.
So the market resets and people are like, oh, hey.
Which you could tell too from that image just before, right? Supply and demand,
Right.
like looking at supply and demand, you could see, oh, hey, between this time and this time, we had the markets go up and down. And
Which is an interesting point because nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but most sellers, if they see their home on the market for 60 to 90 days, they don't want that. But that's a normal, healthy market. That's a normal, healthy seller's market.
yeah, but I think going back to it is that you don't want to be on the market that long,
No.
right? And so because of the amount of time you have to pull the trigger and get all the things right, price, marketing, and condition of the home, you have a short window of opportunity to hit that. You definitely want to adjust to it if you miss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with this on a regular basis with unique properties, right? Whenever you have a unique property, you're always like, okay, the market looks like this, but I don't know 100% that that's always going to be true of a really niche market like specific properties. If you have a bunker in Burl, right? How do we know what the market is for that? 2 acres in Burl, right? Just raw land, no water, power, nothing. How much is that worth?
Yeah, pioneer home, something that maybe, is in
Exactly.
an area that has 3 acres, but everything around it's a 1/4 acre lot.
Yeah, we
just
got a
something
great
that's kinda
historical
interesting.
home on the market right now. It's a yellow brick house, Pioneer, one of the oldest homes in St. George. Beautiful remodel, handicap accessible on the main level. And that's a specific market. So pricing that home, it's not an easy task, right? And so, we have to weigh out how many showings are we getting? What's the feedback we get from the public? So if you do see that house, jump on there and get on our website and check that
right.
out.
Because if you're a buyer and just generally speaking, if you look at every other home that's in that price point, why would you buy a home that was built in 1895 versus a brand new home that you can get, with 3,500 square feet that's brand
Exactly.
new, right?
I don't know. What if you're really emotionally attached to the Pioneers? I don't know.
See, that's the thing.
You got to go find that person.
You got to find that.
find the person.
And that's that needle in a haystack.
The person
where-
that's like, I don't want a brand new home. Why would I buy it? I don't want a brand new home. I want to be close to downtown. I want to be able to walk to Farmstead. I want to be able to,
shout
walk
out
over to the
Farmstead.
bank. Yeah, shout out to Farmstead.
Oh yeah, always, Chris.
Oh,
you do a great job, man. Okay,
Pastries.
scroll one more page.
I would pay.
Oh, interest rate. Oh yeah, and then archives. So I think this is so people just need to never forget the COVID apocalypse, like supply and demand. We just looked at the pages above what a normal market is. This is that same. Basically the same chart. This was active listings because we were just looking at. I wanted to track specifically active inventory as the change happens super fast. So that's a wild chart. That's a wild chart.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that shows active listings. It doesn't necessarily show volume of homes sold because we didn't really drop the volume of homes sold. Really?
Yeah, no. Well, if you look at it over
not
a timeline,
drastically.
like the total units had a huge drop off from. Oh, that was in the archives. Remember that one chart where it was like a 25% drop
Like early on.
So that's essentially this. So as that chart goes down, the active listings is that people just weren't putting their house on the market, and we could only sell like the time. So 500. This was pending sales.
Yeah.
So you can see that demand is what we're actually closing. It doesn't really change all that fast or dramatically. It's just supply, dude.
I'll never forget getting on the MLS and looking up just the greater St. George area, and there were like 256 active listings.
Yeah.
Crazy.
19 offers on every property. Just wild. This is my last point. This is a great transition. We look at different markets because St. George is a feeder. People come here from somewhere else typically, right? There's not a lot of transplants that are moving, within the county. We have 200,000 people countywide. As people grow up or trade houses, that as a percentage of our market is pretty small because of our population. So we watch the Wasatch Front market and we watch Orange County in Southern California. Those are our 2 big markets people move in here. And it has been that way since basically the 90s, right? Knowing that to be the case, I started watching the Orange County market. Their market went from 6,000 active listings on a rolling 3-month average, okay, or on a 3-year previous average to 2,000. They have 3 million people, and their active inventory is 2,000 homes.
Yeah.
Compare those ratios.
That's crazy. So they have a flaming market. The housing market is still on fire in Orange County. However, what I will say is the total number of sales, though, is also low, right? We went from 6 to 2,000, right? So the prices are going up, but nobody's moving, right? There's not a lot of people that are deciding to make that change. And that's, I think there's some residual effect here because of that.
That's concerning. So
But they didn't go back up. See, ours went back up. Supply went back up. Theirs didn't.
So that can be a concern. Like when you're looking at the broader market and stuff that's more liquid, if you see price going up and the volume is going down, there's concern in that trend pattern. There can be, right?
I'm concerned already in it for sure.
I'm applying a little bit of stock knowledge, market knowledge to this, if you will. And that's not what you want to see, right? You want to see the price going up, but there's a lot of activity supporting that price. Not
right.
Everyone stopped selling, so the price is going up, but it's because no one's doing anything. Because if you have a wave of people that all of a sudden start doing stuff, that there will be that price correction, and it could be to the upside potentially, right? But more likely than not, if it kept driving up, when there becomes a lot of activity, it's going to come down.
Yeah.
So something healthy, a healthy market, whether it's real estate or even if you're looking at one single stock ticker, you want to see a healthy price increase, but you want to see a ton of volume.
My question to you would be, my
volume.
follow-up question would be, where does that lead typically? What can we expect
Price correction.
when it does change? Typically, how much is there a bounce back? Can we even anticipate that with real estate?
A bounce back?
Yeah, because prices went up, they also have to eventually come down once supply does flood to the market.
Sure.
If demand stays the same, then prices just balance out back to roughly where they were when that run began, right?
So there's a lot of theories out there and a lot of books that you can read on, mean reversion, right? Just reverting to the mean. So it depends how you look at stuff. Some people prescribe to like the Fibonacci sequences, right? And they say like that kind of
tool
patterns that repeat themselves and stuff. So if you chart out home prices and stuff, you could probably have a pretty decent idea of what may happen.
Because
I'm not going to give a solid answer on this podcast.
But my argument would be is because of the human element and people legitimately needing the roof over their head, is that once you eliminate the investor market from the market and the home values are stable with the actual residents living there, I think I'm looking at this, population, the number of homeowners in Orange County versus the population.
Yeah. What do you mean by eliminate the investor market? Talk about that.
So lending and easy money is gone on the real estate side. So you're eliminating the institutional investors in real estate. Over the last, am I wrong to say that over the last 18 to 24 months, that's gone in real estate? Institutional cash.
I think it depends on what market you're in.
Institutional cash is pretty much. there's still people that quote unquote call themselves investors. And
dude, San Francisco's got a 40% vacancy.
Yeah,
San Francisco. 40%.
Yeah.
That's a massive liquidation of investment in real estate.
Whereas in Phoenix, you still have companies that are still buying up.
Commercial trickles into housing.
The commercial real estate vacancy rate is crazy right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Crazy.
But in St. George, it's less than 1% on vacancy in office.
Because we never built it.
We just got a new office, right? And
but supply was zero, right?
I know supply zero, but it's less than one. So, but to say though that there is a difference market to market though, right? So if you talk about broad housing across the U.S., that's just broad office space across the U.S. But San Francisco's at a 40% vacancy, St. George is less than 1.
And this is where we start to slip into trying to look at the macro versus local, because real estate really is hyper local still, no matter what.
Always.
Whatever happens in San Francisco and Salt Lake, it is going to impact our market to a small degree. But as long as we're being thoughtful with the builds and the developers in town building the right amount of homes to make sure that has water and do it in a positive way, and we support the population of people that are ultimately going to want to move here, we have our own control of our own destiny. I think a little bit on the real estate side.
Note to local builders: please keep building.
Keep building. Southern Utah Home Builders Association, shout out. They do a good job. They're active in the community.
And listen listen to real estate professionals that are involved in the market and, like you said, build the right
small
thing.
club too here
Small
in
club, yeah.
Southern
But
Utah.
keep building for sure.
Yeah, keep building. And I think.
But what about the water?
We're going to be out.
I heard they were auctioning off some water shares, gallon at a time.
Okay, we could do a quick transition. Now, real estate, if you're looking for the housing market, that's over. We're going to talk real quick about water and just an update that I got.
Can't talk real quick about water. You just
No,
can't.
I know, but we need to do an update. I think people need to
You
know.
know, I
what
do
we got-
like
what-
liquid assets. So water or liquid assets?
Washington
or both?
County Water Conservancy District held their meeting last week and unveiled their 20-year strategy and plan. They beat the city of St. George with their 20-year plan, their proposed 20-year plan, downtown plan, that they still have not solidified, that expired in 2020. It expired in 2020, and they still have not
So what if
finalized a draft. But the Washington County Water Conservancy District luckily has. So it's
St. George
probably
City-
because the
what
city
is-
can't do it until the water district does it. Is what my guess is.
So what has the city been doing the last 4 years?
Nothing, Jeff.
Arguing amongst themselves.
I
it would
honestly
appear.
wish, if you're listening to this, please drop in the comment success that the city of St. George has had, because I'm not trying to insult anybody, any of the
No.
people working over there.
Absolutely
I
not.
want to legitimately understand what are we hanging our hat on as an accomplishment.
That'd be really interesting to see, like who out there views what the St. George.
They've staffed
who-
the police. I would say that they've staffed the police.
but who
they're working
feels
on the fire?
But who feels out there being represented, and what was that win? That
Yeah.
it would be really cool to know, because one person may view that there was not effective government, and that someone else might say they solved a great problem for me, and
It's true.
they're
I'd
super
like to
happy.
know-
I'd like to know what that
I
is.
think
I'd
they
like to know
crushed
four
the
fair
art
question.
in town too.
There's four different opinions that I would like to know. I'd like to know
Trails.
the mayor's opinion. I'd like to know the city council.
Well, I don't think you'll get the mayor's opinion.
Well, I'm just saying I'd like to be able to compare all
if
three.
I could schedule one with her,
but, yeah.
Well, it's not a problem scheduling; it's a problem getting her to show up. But
Yeah.
I guess I could schedule.
So
one,
I'd like
just
to know her
reschedule and
opinion. I'd
reschedule.
like to know someone from the city council's opinion. I'd like to know someone from the administration's opinion, like a bureaucrat, and then I'd like to know a couple different citizens' opinions on what's been.
I will
accomplished in the
clarify.
last 4
I
years.
will
And just
clarify. I do
look
think
how-
that they have accomplished a few things. Now that I really put my brain to it, I think staffing, from what I've gathered on the police side, they've staffed the police and they have a solid plan around staffing the police and keeping that important, which I think is important, and fire as well.
After some.
They've done pretty good
Debate.
job with the parks. I think the parks are all great, man, and the trails. I think they do a great job maintaining all of that.
For sure. That's part of what St. George is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
you go
listen,
back
There's
to,
not much they could really do with traffic. Truthfully, I
you're-
don't think there's that
if
much
you're-
they could even accomplish.
if you're a listener and you had a problem in your life or some barrier or something, and the St. George government did something to fix it that really was meaningful to you,
Drop it in. Yeah.
comment or message us. We'd love to hear that story. We want to know what's going on. Like, what did they do
Yeah.
that really helped somebody?
That was
was
on
good.
the good side.
Yeah.
Because I think we always get the things that are not going well. That's a main focus.
Well,
you
it's
never
always
hear
easy
about
to
the good
complain.
things. Yeah,
It's always
for
easy to
sure.
complain.
And I started the whole conversation with complaining. But let's
great.
get back to water.
Awesome.
Real quick. I appreciate you saying that because it kind of recalibrates the right thought process. Water.
so what were you saying about the Conservancy District? What they said?
By 2023, we have gone above our rate, expected yield rate, right? We can guarantee, or we can average out that we're going to for sure get this much water. After 2023, our development exceeds that rate at what we can expect for
Is it
water
the-
on a year-to-year
The
basis.
yield per home or yield per permit
It's the
or
yield
just total water per population per person?
use. It's the total water used, not including agricultural. I think agricultural water we have plenty of.
Yeah, it's 90. I think it's 93 or somewhere around 93% of our total water usage is agricultural.
But that's because so much of our water is non-potable water that the cost to treat it and the facilities to treat that is so extreme that we can't bear that burden at the current moment.
Non-potable,
right?
like we're drilling for it and pulling it out of the water or
So-
pulling it out of the ground.
pulling out of the ground, but even certain runoffs, that the quality of the water at the time that you collect it, right? Or if you have a reservoir and you fill it full of water that you can't drink, it doesn't really do you any good, right? And so I think it's just a complicated issue on collecting potable water. So we have a current rate yield of like, what can we actually make available to the public that's being used and through the pipes on any given year, right? Period. Like that's it. What's our current capabilities to do it? We're at the max. Every house built after 2023 is outside of that yield rate. Last year, Hurricane was having developers sign specifically saying that they cannot guarantee water for this plat. There's 72,000 platted, unbuilt pieces of property in Washington County. 72,000. Over the next 4 years, it doesn't get better. Next year, the year after. They can't start saying it because the reuse water system doesn't kick in until 4 years from now. I think it was like, I have to look at their graph.
It was the graveyard wash that was going to be finished first,
Graveyard
right?
wash has to be finished first before we can connect the full reuse system. And then that'll add, guess what the yield rate bumps us to?
It's like, is it
1,200. 1,200. That's it. So thinking, how many homes do we need to build a year?
Well,
go back to this is another data, Chem Gardner data. How many homes do we need to build a year to maintain equilibrium in price? 3,500 homes is the expectation. Population growth.
That math is not checking out.
The math doesn't check out, and
So-
we've missed the deficit for every single year except for last year for 12 years.
So correct me if I'm wrong then, but I remember we were chatting with Adam Snow, who's a water, he's
county commissioner.
County
and
commissioner,
he's also
very involved in water.
It's important for water is the biggest line item on his agenda.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I remember us having a conversation about the reuse system, and he said when that was completed, it would free up 6,500
Homes?
It would free up water enough for 6,500 more residential homes.
Right. So that's where then we only have another runway up until we meet that, right? Because if we have a deficit of homes and we flood to that market, or we actually build those as they go, or because what if we just because the yield rate isn't saying that we for sure will not have enough water for that every single house, but we could drop to a point where all of a sudden somebody's house gets shut off, and then how do you start to regulate that? God could be bless us with water and rain on us all the time, and we don't not worry at all.
Shout out
about
to Governor
it.
Cox for praying for rain last year.
And then,
We got a bunch of snow.
you know what I love
gosh.
that he did, and it's something that I brought up before. He did release like we all need to say thank you to God for delivering on that. That like we did it. He answered, and then he said thank you, and I appreciated that because at first it didn't feel like he was going. I was like, hey, yo, I think we all need to say a amen for him actually performing on that prayer, because we nailed it and we got mocked. We got mocked for that, which is so frustrating. So frustrating to me. Why would you mock somebody for that? Somebody do a prayer and then do a whole state, and you have like a whole state of people that my whole family, we went outside, we said a prayer for rain. I saw that. We had already prayed like 15 times for water, but by that point, but still, I thought it was an impressive thing. Big shout out. Yeah, you guys, nobody likes
No,
Brandon hates talking about politics and religion, which is the funniest thing. I'll talk about
together.
when you bring it up at the same tandem, you can see him shut down. If you're watching the video, you can see his look. Okay, so what my takeaway is this.
We're all gonna die.
Conservation. Like we just have to have a legitimate concerted effort. But I just know there's somebody in the comments right now thinking if they're moving here and we don't have water, they should be the first ones not to get water. Like somebody is taking the alternative position, is like, don't build anything then. It's like, what? But if we do that, the residual impact is not good either. So like, what's the answer? Like, what do we do?
I read a comment one time, and someone had described a scenario in which the government forces people to move out because we don't have enough water.
You hear that on Glenn Beck or something?
Gateway Pundit.
It was Facebook.
Alex Jones.
It was probably the St. George.
But that's the thing is that like
Posted right after they said Facebook does not have authorization to use my photos for any purposes, and I own all the rights. That right after that post.
Probably. Anyway.
what I think this conservation is important. the building community and the mayor and the city of St. George and the community needs to come out and talk about this. Like we need to take the next 3 months and legitimately have as many honest conversations as we can about water and development and growth. Because Hurricane has this boom of land. Guess what? They don't have water.
Yeah.
Just that Sand Hollow Gateway right there is thousands of units.
Yeah.
And,
but then we
resorts
start
and
prioritizing.
schools
We're going to start prioritizing. Okay, well, what's the most valuable piece of property that does have the water? And then that'll get developed and it'll slow things down. And so the market might just be just fine, right? I might be, a chicken little at a certain point, but it seems pretty drastic that we just need to get it all out there and be honest with everybody about the data and not try to move a narrative one particular way or another. I think we just need to have honest conversations.
Well, I'm going to just interject my wealth management opinion on this really quick. Because here's the deal is all this stuff has a probability to it, right? Especially if you run the scenarios. Right. Anyways, if you look at what the probabilities are, 1 or 2 standard deviations away from the mean, okay, that is where I recommend people live their life, right? What is not possibilities, but probabilities, okay? And so sometimes around water, what you start having when you start having these conversations is people saying that's the chicken little conversation. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to buy in St. George or I'm not going to buy in Southern Utah because in 5 years there's going to be no water. And so, I'm just not going to participate. And they're living their life way down on a tail end event, right? And if that tail end event comes,
we got a lot of other
congratulations, but you have way bigger problems than what your house is worth at that point, right? Like you probably have way bigger problems. And so what you end up doing is you end up living your life where you're losing the game in the world of probabilities and what's probably really going to happen, and you're missing out because you're so scared about these tiny tail end events that are just actually not that likely to happen. I think water falls into that, right?
Yeah. I
don't think, the county is going to come to my house and force me out of my home because I was the unlucky one that got my water shut off or something. I think there's solutions out there. I trust in technology and scientific advancement. I think there's ways to solve these problems.
Yeah.
And I think we just have to do what we're doing, which is bringing the conversation together. And so what I don't want to have people do, or what I don't want to accidentally encourage somebody to do, is to not participate, right? Because they're just worried that it's going to be this doomsday event, right? And I mean, think about if you were the guy that said that in the 60s, because by the 70s, we'd for sure be blown up by nuclear warfare with Russia. And now 50, 60 years later, you were really regretting a lot of those decisions. Don't do that.
And I think this is a great opportunity for us to highlight what the potential issues are. And those tail end events may or may not happen, but what are the actions that we could take today to just make good decisions, with policy making and approvals of developments, right? And how do we do this thing? I think the cities and the planning commissions and things like that throughout the county, they do a pretty good job advising. I think it's public pushback a lot of times on the development side that changes the direction of things, which is kind of how the system's set up, which is why we move it forward. So hopefully everybody's just getting engaged and fully educated on what it is that's going on. And then following along and knowing it's like dark skies in Ivans. The idea of removing dark sky from Ivans is devastating to me. I would never want it. And at the same time, that means gas stations potentially not wanting to come in there, or them not coming in at all because the city doesn't want any of them, right? It's the residents want houses, they want trails, they want the black sky, they don't want developments, they want people riding their bikes and walking around, but not to go shopping. That's not what they want. Yeah. And that's their prerogative to be able to do that. And you can argue all day long, well, what about all these other issues? And this could solve this other problem. But at the end of the day, we're in a land of the free, right? Home of the brave. I hope we're all still brave. Jeez.
Not about all.
We need to be braver. We need to have courage. Say things that.
That's a good point.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that was the point. I think we could wrap up on.
I think my takeaway from your point is sometimes the pros far outweigh the cons, and if the public or a specific community like Ivans is willing to give up some minor inconveniences, might not, maybe there's not a gas station that you can walk around to and grab a drink. You got to drive into St. George to get get some fuel. I think that's a minor inconvenience for having, dark skies.
The dark
If
skies
that's-
and
if-
oh my god,
If
it's
that's what
beautiful
the
out there.
citizens want.
If that's
Guys,
what the
that's what
citizens
local
want,
governments.
yeah.
That's what
That's
local government is all
and-
about. If the federal government came out and said every residential neighborhood in the U.S. will be a dark skies law, it'd be the worst. That'd be
wouldn't
like
work,
the
yeah.
would be the worst thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Not ever. Okay, but it'd be pretty stupid.
Mhm.
Okay, but for the local government, for Ivans to say, look, in our small community here, this is what our citizens want.
Mhm.
That's literally what local government's supposed to do, is make that decision.
Yeah.
And that they know what trade-off they're making, or should hopefully understand to some degree what trade-off they're making, right? But
Yeah.
go cast your vote. And that's why local elections matter as much as they do, because
Because of those little things.
And-
those little
and-
things,
and I would
they
say
make
this,
big differences.
There's these a state resolution passed that local governments cannot control the look of a residential property. They can't control and do a overarching CCNRs implemented by the city to regulate what a house looks like, which is pretty. That's a pretty. It extends pretty far, especially for a lot of southern Utah towns that regulate literally down to the paint that you can paint it, right? The color
Too broad of a brush for the state.
too broad, right? So we have cinder block walls on every neighborhood. Like we don't do anything else. We do cinder block walls, right? Like white
no
picket
other
fence,
option.
no, thank you.
a vinyl fence.
Oh,
Stonework? No.
vinyl picket fence on a farm is okay, but cinder block everywhere else, right? Like yet we can't have the St. George Inn. It's too towering over us.
The overhang on the
The
sidewalk
overhang
is unacceptable.
is unacceptable of a 3-story building.
Hey, sky rises. We're not interested in sky rises here. Okay.
It's legitimately, it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
no
Skyrise was in the comment, right?
It was literally in the comments.
a 3-story building is not a skyrise. That's not even close.
It's not even taller than the trees.
You can jump out of that and just break your leg.
It's just, and it's in the downtown. It's right in the heart of downtown. St. George Boutique Hotel. That'd be great. That's perfect.
fantastic. On
It
a
keeps
vacant-
short-term rentals out of that market,
on
right?
a vacant lot
On a vacant lot.
with a tree on it.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
It's just, it was such a great plan, and it's now a full another 2
It
weeks
is-
for
it
him
is
to
a great
come
plan,
back,
yeah.
and he's going to have to go to architectural and do a setback, and all of a sudden he's got 500 square feet less to work with now.
It's a perfect example of
Or
one,
maybe even 2,000. I bet you it's probably 2,000 to 6,000 square feet less that he's going to have to work with just by setting back that
it's a perfect
top story.
example of one or two people just getting in the way of something that
Just
would work
getting
for
in-
everybody.
And everybody would be fine. And
But if
life
everyone
would
went
still
out,
go on.
if everyone went out and cast their vote, and
said,
they
"We
voted
don't
in,
want this,"
and they
yeah.
voted in, no, they vote for the people in the city council that you think represent you the best. But if
Yeah.
everyone did that, you probably wouldn't have, you'd probably have a more efficient or effective city government representing
Yeah.
the city as a whole. So, if truly what's good for everyone, right? Everyone went out and voted for representatives that represented that.
What I would
the
say,
two people
what I would say
wouldn't-
is this:
gets
is
through.
the city can't do it, but the HOA can do it. So
Oh, yeah.
what they end up doing is pushing developers to go the HOA route. Which, if you look at California, they went the HOA route, and you pay city and HOA fees of upwards of like a friend of mine moved from California. He was living in Southern California. His HOA alone was $1,000, $900. He rounds it up to the 1,000 to be dramatic, but it's $900 every month to an HOA. He's
Every
like, now
month?
granted, every month, my friend, every single month.
That's it. It's a mortgage. It's not a.
That's a
California,
tax.
but, yeah.
That's a local tax. Because you know what he said? He said, yeah, but the stores around there were nice and all the parks are maintained, and it's not a it's a nice area of town. That's what he said. And I said, in my head, I'm like, but isn't that just what the town's supposed to be like? Without $900 a month?
Yeah.
So
It's
my town,
communism.
So
that's what my town's like, and my
So that's what
HOA
happens
is
when you get-
$5 a month. So
that's what happens when you go these models, when you go where regulation happens at the HOA level, and you let developers do large scale developments. What ends up happening though is that Desert Colors HOA turns into 25 years from now, Desert Colors HOA is going to be larger, right? It's going to get into the category of, oh, you can live over down in Desert Color, but you got to pay $800 a month. That's
a hot
going to
take.
happen.
You're going to frustrate some people by saying that. That's
It's
a hot
just
take.
truth though, dude. It's just
You don't
truth.
think that
what does
is-
that do to long-term property values in Desert Color?
It brings them up. Look at Southern California. It brings them out. It's also gentrification at some level, right? You're just going,
Okay.
land, a farm.
That's a good point.
Farm to wealthy individuals, right? And we have 11% of our county is privately owned. The federal government and the state owns, 89% of our whole county is not even owned by its citizens. The private owners are only 11%. So the property values are going to be massive. You're going to have to be wealthy to live here in the next 10 to 15 years. That's the period. I lived right next to Boulder, Colorado. You go to Scottsdale, Arizona. You go to Sedona, Arizona. Those are areas that, if we don't do some of the little things now, in 20 years, we're going to be Boulder, Colorado. We got to get density, man. We got to get density. We have to say in the spots that we've decided on, we got to give walkable, dense housing to keep families here in the future, right? I mean, we can have the fields in Little Valley and have wealthy people, but what ends up happening is that those people end up moving out. So 25 years down the road,
that's not even 25 years down the road. That's happening now. Yeah. And I think there's not enough people talking about
when does a house become old? I think it's like 20 to 25 years.
Rob, what I'm saying is there is a lot of people that moved here during COVID because where they came from was shut down or had regulations. It wasn't driving, and St. George was open, and you could come here and do what you want and go to the lakes and go on the trails and
right.
Live a life, pretty regular life and all this stuff. And now they're looking back at where they came from now that it's open again, and they're saying St. George doesn't really have, right? We have a lack of, fine dining and different things to do for the family. If if you're not into the trails and stuff, like a lot of people are like a little bit lackluster about it, and they're moving back out. Yeah. I have a friend that's an agent that a lot of his listings that he's selling this year, he's told me there are people he helped buy a home a year and a half, 2 years ago.
That's been happening. That's been happening, but it's actually not most.
It's not a net outflow by any means.
Right.
But I'm saying that we are not retaining all of the people coming here because people do arrive and it doesn't quite meet the expectations. And so what you end up having to have, if you want to have a continued growth of wealthy people in the community, is you have to be able to support the things that they want and need.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also if you don't have the ability to rent here before you buy here, right? If that's like the route you want to take, you end up saying somebody's going to move here from a different area. They financially have the capability of doing it. They have to be able to have the financial capability to do it. What's the profile of that person and what type of housing do they want to live in? And I think focusing in on our development on that demographic, shout out to Southern Utah Home Builders Association. Going right back to that is like, that's where I hope we're doing our research on the development side and being able to forecast out, 20 years down the road. Because we got to keep a younger generation coming in and out with higher paying jobs. It can't just be a retirement community, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But maybe it can. Maybe I'm wrong. If you think it should be a retirement community and no families moving here, drop it in the comments because I'd love to hear that perspective because I think there's probably an argument for that.
Yeah,
I'm willing to hear any opinion somebody has.
McCrae's like, I want the youngest people, all the tech people to move to Southern Utah. That's McCrae's angle.
Apple, bring your headquarters here.
Yeah, Apple, exactly.
Up on Tech Ridge, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be insane.
That would be insane. I don't think it's quite big enough for Apple.
I don't think so either. Ridge. But I went to when I was a construction consultant. I visited the Microsoft campus, like up in Washington, that they're building. So I think like people here when they talk about like big developments or like sky rises on a 3-story building, I'm like, man, this Microsoft project the new Microsoft campus up there would have blown their mind. It's a whole freaking city. It's like, seriously, it's like knock downtown St. George, just bulldoze it all down and completely build
the crazy
all new commercial
thing. The crazy
facilities.
thing is, I think, there's a contingency of people here that have been small town people, their whole life and
never been to Seattle
been to Seattle. But then I think that has officially shifted over where the vast majority of people living here understand
that's also okay. Like I don't want anyone to mistake that I'm not looking to have St. George be Seattle. I moved. When I got out of the Army, I moved here for a reason.
It's a tug of war. Isn't it such a tug of war? Like you want to have growth, but just like really, really slow growth because you want it to stay exactly like it is right now.
But it can't.
It's so hard to project out and lead out that way.
Sniff and scurry or hum and haw, right?
Sniff and scurry or hem and haw. We're gonna leave it on that one. We should rap. We should rap with sniff.
move
Say it
my
one more time.
cheese. Sniff and scurry. You can be sniff and scurry, or you can be hum and haw.
Yeah, who ate
That's
my
right.
cheese? Yeah,
There
that
you
should
go.
be the title of the podcast, Blake.
I love it.
Like, look, change happens. It's inevitable.
That's right.
Adapt to the change. Your life can be wonderful.
And be happy.
Resist the change. You can just be mad about it, right?
We should be happy.
Figure out how to make things work for
Happy
you.
thought. One happy thought to finish. What do you got? What's one good thing?
My family's coming to visit they're stationed in Korea right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Be here this weekend.
Nice.
We're super excited. We were stationed at the same place. So when I was active duty, we were stationed the same installation as they were. And so we got to spend a lot of time around them. It was really great. But I got out of the Army and they ended up getting a PCS transfer to Korea.
Cool.
And they're coming to visit.
That's cool. Jeff, what do you got?
Dope. So I've got a 8th grader, 7th grader, and a 5th grader. We're all starting football. Crazy, but it's like me living my life, because I feel like I was 14, 2 years.
You're like,
ago,
I just
right?
remember doing this.
I literally just remember riding my bike with my helmet, to football practice, and then
Oh my god.
Jeff has a kid that's actually good. And he's not saying that just because he's their dad.
yeah,
He's actually good.
yeah. I've got one kid that he's super athletic and he's getting really involved in baseball, so it's a lot of fun. So
Sweet.
it's all just coming.
My good thing, we're do nachos, a pool and nachos tonight for dinner tonight with
What
the
time?
3 boys.
Where at? What time?
We're going to the Teeters.
Like
We're going.
super nachos, like jalapenos.
I don't
beef,
know.
all that
I don't
good
know.
stuff?
We're just going over to a friend's house. He said he's gonna have nachos, so we're
Bro,
gonna
super
do pool and nachos.
Bring
So that'll
up,
be fun.
bring diced habanero.
Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Wealth 435. This is our housing market update for quarter 2, 2023. We covered a lot of stuff. We covered water. We covered the housing market and the update. Go to wealth435.com and you'll be able to see our housing market data and go through the slides with us if you're not watching along. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter. VoteSTG.com is our voter information channel that feeds this podcast, right? We're trying to get out the vote. That's the main thing here. We talk about housing sometimes, but recently we've been really focusing in on the local politics. So St. George is having an election. Branden wants to say something.
I also had
We're
a whole
wrapping.
segment prepared for talking about treasury yield curves.
We're gonna have to
if
talk
somebody
about
wants,
treasury yield
if
curve.
somebody wants that conversation, go ahead and message me because I would love to have it with somebody. Since
Yeah.
it's not Rob apparently.
It's not, we ran out of time, folks. We know we only have your attention for a minute, but thanks for tuning in. Enjoy it. See you out there, guys.